Hello subscribers, welcome back to the Gamer Muscle YouTube channel and some interesting thoughts I've had whilst drinking tea. Click the like button. I think that there's going to be a highly nerdy battle between the Assetto Corsa 1 mod scene, Ilya, Shader Patch, Content Manager, Pure, car mods, track mods and all that stuff. A battle between them and the official Kunos Assetto Corsa Evo and official Assetto Corsa stuff. Following on from Sim Racing Expo, we now have a lot more information as to what Assetto Corsa Evo is going to have in it and what type of game it's going to be. If you haven't yet, check out our interview with Marco from Kunos. It was delightfully chaotic. But what we now know is that Assetto Corsa Evo looks like it's going to contain a lot of the features that you currently have in the original Assetto Corsa, though Kunos are going to want to be doing it all officially, shall we say. All part of the game, all in a package, all properly licensed, you know, legitimately done. Now, obviously, I think ACC is done. ACC's dead. It's not going to get any more development from Kunos, and I think AC Evo is going to contain the GT3 cars, the racing, online racing, and everything else. It's all going to be inside of Assetto Corsa Evo. So we can already say that ACC's been purged and has lost this war. Preemptive nuclear strike on ACC. However, AC1, it's not going to go anywhere, at least in the short term. And what I think is going to happen is AC1 modders are basically going to see all the stuff in Evo as a challenge for the modders to go, can we do better than what official Kunos are doing? Like, you have to think, if you're a modder, it is kind of a bit of a challenge that's being set down, where you're like, oh, hang on a minute, we can really troll Kunos, or just enjoy the challenge of seeing if we can outdo them at their own game. And in many ways, that's what AC1 has been through history. It's like, oh, guys, we can mod this title, Assetto Corsa 1, and do stuff with it that's better than many other AAA titles and some of the best racing sims out there. And obviously modders really enjoy that challenge. It's got that kind of demo scene vibe, you know. It's like getting a 3D bouncing ball running on a Commodore 64 or something. So, and I really think that Evo is going to spur on that type of challenge for Assetto Corsa 1 modders. Now, don't get me wrong, I think obviously Evo's going to have its own mod scene. There's going to be people that want to capitalise on the fact that Evo's the official product. It'll probably have some kind of store in there, some way for people to monetize. It will launch on console. It will be a very popular game. It'll have all the marketing behind it. It'll have all the streamers playing it. So Evo will have the traction, and at the end of the day, when something's a new thing, even if it's objectively worse, many people will gravitate towards it. That's just how the world works. I mean, you can look at ACC, despite having, I mean, even Max Verstappen doesn't like it, but that doesn't matter. You know, it's the new thing, or it was the new thing, so a lot of people would play ACC instead of AC1. Though I think AC1 has always actually, in terms of player numbers, had more player numbers. Mind you, most of the players are driving down motorways and drifting, not really racing. So I think ACC pipped AC1 when it comes to interest in racing, due to ACC being new and a whole bunch of other reasons. Also being on console, it being more appealing to streamers in many ways. But yeah, the new thing, good or bad, always tends to get a lot of traction regardless. However, what I can see happening is that AC1 has so much momentum behind it, and it does have this sort of elegant simplicity behind it, and usability as a mod platform, and established user base that are doing so many unique things with it, in the same way that BeamMG is a mod platform, or the original Source engine with all the sort of Gary's mod and crazy mods that happened with that. There's a momentum behind the mod scene. There's a culture there that's actually really established and really large, which is a very hard culture to transfer to another title. Newer versions of Unreal Engine, newer versions of Source Engine, newer versions of Armour, R-Factor 2. There's loads of examples through history where a developer has come out with a new engine and a new platform and a better game that's all new, and the mod scene is basically like, well, no guys, the previous thing was actually good enough for what we were doing, and it's already so established and there's already so much stuff for it, it's too much to move to a new platform, or the new platform just simply doesn't offer enough to justify the switch over. And even when the new platform is good enough to justify the switch over, you're talking 2, 3, 4, 5 years for that new platform to build up its momentum and just build up the tools, the content and the culture for that new platform. And again, that's only going to get more and more difficult when the previous platform is actually already pretty bloody good. And you have to keep in mind, with Assetto Corsa 1, real world drivers, real world training centres are using that as a professional simulation tool. It's really, AC1 is really spectacularly good on the grand scheme of things. It's very hard to beat the utility and core feature set that AC1 with mods already has. Short of Kunos effectively doing what Microsoft Flight Simulator has done, which is basically make it so that old content can work in the new game. You can just transfer it across in Microsoft Flight Simulator. You can use the old physics engines if you want to. Short of doing that with Assetto Corsa Evo, I think it's going to be quite hard for AC to build up that same mod culture, or at worst it's going to take quite a while for it to build up. Now another challenge for Evo is them doing stuff in a legit way and competing with people doing things in a non-legit way. It's really hard to compete if you are playing by some rules versus people that are playing by no rules. And you have to admit, your average modder that's just in their bedroom with a bit of spare time who likes to fiddle around with things, they don't want to be dealing with licensing and doing stuff properly in a business way. What they want to do is they want to just mod a car. They want to just port something from Forza or Gran Turismo, or get a model from Turbo Squid and then just mess around with it. And they might even want to do that to a really high standard, but they don't want to be fiddling around with doing things as legally as possible, or going through these processes and communicating with people. God, I mean, communicating with people, guys, it's terrible. Why would you want to spend your time doing that? If you're doing something for fun, you would just want to be messing around with the mod car that you're making, and then maybe share that with a few people that are interested in it. You're not doing it to make money, you're doing it to play around with modding. Now, Evo could combat this by making their tools more streamlined, or making licensing more streamlined. Who knows? There's ways that Kunos could accommodate this, but that's potentially a lot of work for Kunos as well, and their priority is probably their internal licensing and them monetizing the content that they've produced, or monetizing select mod content that they're going to bring into the fold. We don't know exactly how they plan to do these things, but again, it's all this sort of business complexity versus, oh, there's something that you can slap your car mod in, play around with, drive and share with your friends, and it's already working. So that kind of thing, I think, really helps benefit an older title that has its existing user base versus a brand new title that's going to have momentum from being new, and maybe even some other new features, and maybe Evo is better in many ways than AC1, but you know, it's a lot of these things come down to basic convenience and the utility of basic convenience. But again, I do think the reality is Evo will be the new thing. It will be having all the marketing money pumped into it. It will probably have the streamers and YouTubers playing it. It will also be on console, so those user numbers will inflate interest in it. You know, I think in the long term, Evo is probably destined to win this fight, even if it's objectively worse than what you can get from the original Assetto. It's just the nature of capitalism. But I think it's going to be an interesting fight, and I definitely think whatever happens, the original Assetto is going to linger on like a blue cheese in a cupboard progressively getting more and more mouldy, but also more and more flavourful. However, the risk is that it just becomes a congealed block of vomit. Mind you, some people like congealed blocks of vomit, so who am I to say what's good or bad? But yeah, with that beautiful, tasty analogy, what do you guys think? I just think it's really interesting, and it's going to be exciting to see what happens if, in the meantime, the world doesn't collapse around us, which it seems like it probably will do. All in all, though, I hope you enjoyed this video. As I said at the very beginning of the video, you can subscribe and you can click the like button. You can become members. There's ways to support us if you like this type of rubbish. Believe me, I am not very good at being commercial. I just do whatever's on the top of my head. And with my head being as powerful as a Casio watch, that can be problematic. I will see you guys in the next video that we do. Thanks for watching. Take care. And goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.